At least one person who was hired to work security at the Astroworld Music Festival in Houston says organizers were unprepared.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 shocking and disturbing facts related to the infamous Astroworld crowd crush of 2021.
But he came to the medical tent and he said, "There's dead bodies in the crowd. Y'all need to go and handle this."
It faced significant planning issues.
Well, and it sounds like a simple question. Who was in charge? Well, between an alphabet soup of agencies and governmental entities, we found there is no easy answer.
Unsurprisingly, the logistical planning behind Astroworld was a complete disaster. Virtually nothing about this event was planned correctly. The event site and the number of security personnel were woefully inadequate for 50,000 people. And the emergency operations plan did not adequately address the potential for crowd surges.
It detailed plans for riots, shootings, severe weather, and an earthquake. It also detailed plans to speak in code if someone died. But it never mentioned what to do if the crowd were to surge like it did Friday night.
To make matters worse, the site's layout was described as being confusing, with bad lighting and a lack of exits. But worst of all, event organizers grossly miscalculated a state fire code, resulting in significant and fatal overcrowding at the venue. Put simply, this event was a disaster waiting to happen.
I would say a lot more details need to be shared in planning between the city and the county.
Trouble was brewing beforehand.
As a security expert, what do you think, if any place, did they go wrong?
Thanks for having me on, Isaiah. There are a number of places that I immediately identified when I saw what had happened out there.
Even well before the crowd crush, Astroworld 2021 had a heavy atmosphere. Trouble was brewing at the security perimeter at just 8:15 that morning, with the police lieutenant radioing the Houston Fire Department for riot gear. Between 9:15 and 10, there were reports of attendees throwing trash at each other and violently breaching both the main entrance and the COVID safety checkpoints, injuring a number of people.
Over the next few hours, while some shop, eat, and attend daytime concerts, videos show instances of scattered mayhem. Fans break perimeter fences, rush entrances, and storm security checkpoints.
Chaos erupted even further throughout the afternoon, with fans pulling down barricades, igniting fireworks, cutting through fences with bolt cutters, and trampling each other. By 8:15 that night, medical personnel had run out of equipment and were forced to start triaging patients. So overwhelmed were they with injuries.
I was curious to who was actually monitoring this crowd during this event. You should have always had people in place monitoring the crowd just in case something like this does happen. And it appears to me, evidently, they didn't have anybody doing that.
Security was grossly undertrained.
And we are now learning that a man hired to work security for the event says he quit that morning over concerns of lack of training and staffing issues that made him question his own safety.
As you can deduce from the chaos, security at the event was almost non-existent. Understaffed, undertrained, underprepared, you name it. The security guards were it. As mentioned before, the team had failed to plan for a crowd surge, leading to the chaotic confusion of the crush. Many guards have also spoken to the media, claiming that event planners prioritize bodies and numbers over competence.
So, I mean, respectfully, do you feel like you were qualified for this situation?
I do. I don't believe I was prepared.
You don't think you were prepared?
I was qualified because I believe that if we were all prepared the right way, that stuff wouldn't have happened the way it did.
As such, many of the security guards working that fateful night had only been hired and trained the day before, with a vague orientation that didn't provide clear guidelines. Even worse, many of these last-minute hires had no experience working security, with many having jobs in retail and hospitality.
When you have people straight off the streets hired within days of an event, is that a formula for something definitely going wrong?
Oh, without a doubt. That's definitely a recipe for disaster.
Fans were packed so tight, they literally couldn't move.
Once the crowd was moving, you were moving with it. You were at the mercy of the crowd, pretty much. There was no way you would have been able to move around or keep yourself stable.
Even if tragedy never occurred, Astroworld 2021 still sounds like a nightmare. The aforementioned miscalculation in fire safety codes resulted in a venue that was packed way too tightly. Multiple investigations have shown that the venue was under catastrophic crowd density, and this is mirrored in the survivors' experiences. Many people who luckily escaped the night have relayed their personal horror stories, claiming that everyone was packed so tightly that they literally couldn't move. There were reports of people being unable to raise their arms above their waists, of being unable to walk, and perhaps most nightmarishly, of being unable to breathe or call for help.
A density of 1.5 square feet per person can cause compressive asphyxiation, with so little space that people cannot draw a breath, according to the crowd experts. One calls it a crushing point.
People died standing up.
I was like, man, this is not safe. Like, I started to notice, I look in front of me, I see people crying.
Eventually, the crush grew so severe that people began to suffocate. And this wasn't a dramatic collapse to the ground. No, some victims died standing up, trapped between the people who were slowly killing them. Medical personnel at the venue reported that most of the victims bore no physical signs of being trampled, such as crushed chest or injured faces. Rather, their dilated pupils suggested anoxia, a complete lack of oxygen typically brought about through suffocation and choking.
The post-investigation found that at least 7 of those who later died were located in one area of the audience. 3 of those victims can be seen unconscious amid a pile of fans on the ground about 16 minutes into the show, which continued for nearly an hour.
Therefore, they deduced that these concert goers were so tightly squeezed that their diaphragms were crushed and that blood was unable to reach their brains and hearts. Cardiac arrest would have set in within minutes.
Another security guard said he needed help. I followed him and found 3 people laid out in front of me getting CPR. They were in cardiac arrest.
The concert gave rise to satanic conspiracy theories.
Some concert goers described the vibe as dark and apocalyptic.
The festival theme, it had like this dystopian theme, kind of like driving fear into the crowd before like the artists even came out.
As is typical in times of tragedy, the Astroworld disaster gave rise to numerous conspiracy theories, specifically of the occult nature. The atmosphere itself was heavy with what some described as satanic symbolism, including a stage in the shape of an inverted cross, lots of fire, and Scott's shirt, which bore the design of demons exiting through a portal. On the surface, this atmosphere is creepy and unsettling enough, especially considering what happened at the show. But some people took it even further, suggesting that the concert was some type of satanic and sacrificial ritual conducted by Scott. The rumors got so bad that fact-checking websites like Snopes had to step in and shut the theories down, or attempt to. Ezra Blount. A total of 10 people died at Astroworld, each and every one of them a tragedy. But the death that got the most attention is that of Ezra Blount. Blount was just a 9-year-old boy who was attending the concert with his father, Tristan. The two had planned to stay farther back in the crowd with Blount on his father's shoulders, but the crowd crush soon occurred and Tristan was knocked unconscious.
Ezra was taken to Texas Children's, put on a ventilator, and in a medically induced coma.
This caused Ezra to fall to the ground and he was quickly consumed by the surging crowd. He was rushed to Texas Children's Hospital and placed in a medical-induced coma, but unfortunately, he did not make it. Young Blount has since become the most public face of the unimaginable disaster.
The youngest victim of the tragic Astroworld Festival is being laid to rest in Dallas today.
The show kept going.
Two-way radios are the go-to means of communicating at a large event, and they were used by Astroworld's medical staff. But we found the biggest EMS agency around could not directly tune in.
Perhaps the most famous aspect of the Astroworld tragedy is that the show kept going while the event unfolded. Pandemonium ensued as the crowd crush occurred, with the music being too loud for radio traffic between paramedics and security to be heard. Furthermore, the untrained personnel failed to recognize the ongoing problem in the crowd, with one staff member reportedly telling a panicked concert goer, "It's a mosh pit. What do you expect?"
At one point, I got enough breath to tell someone I can't breathe. And this kid's, quote for quote, his words were, "Not my problem."
Even people who did recognize the problem failed to intervene, including EMTs who refused to venture into the surging crowd, citing the potential for personal harm. So while those in the crowd were being crushed, the show continued as if nothing was wrong, the music drowning out the screams.
Multiple videos show the crowd pleading with Scott to stop the show as fans were in distress. It's unclear if Scott could hear them. The rapper at one point stopped the performance, but then continued.
A mass casualty incident was declared.
Police declared the Astroworld Festival a mass casualty event by 9:30 Friday night. The moment a day of fun became a nightmare.
With the situation rapidly deteriorating, Unified Command declared a mass casualty incident at 9:38 p.m. But this critical information failed to reach the proper authorities. One major problem was a bottleneck in decision-making. Police and medical personnel lacked the authority to stop the show. The communication breakdowns resulted in top officials failing to receive the order to stop.
Under roles and responsibilities, the document reveals only the executive producer and the festival director had the power to stop the show.
The situation was further exacerbated by the poor response from security, who, as we mentioned, had not even planned for a crowd surge and therefore had no idea what to do or how to stop it. The set finally finished between 10:10 and 10:15, over half an hour after the mass casualty incident was officially declared.
By this point, HPD has already declared Astroworld a mass casualty incident. At 9:41, security and police rushed the central aisle to the front of the stage. A minute later, Travis stops the show for a third time.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Unconscious people were crowd surfed to safety. One of the most surreal images of the night is that of unconscious bodies being crowd surfed to safety. Their limp bodies floating above the crowd. As people passed out from lack of oxygen, their bodies went limp. The screams for help from nearby concertgoers were unheard, so fans took it upon themselves to intervene and hoisted the unconscious bodies above their heads, crowd-surfing them to the barriers and into the arms of awaiting security and medical personnel. And while these people were not confirmed dead at the time, it's possible that some of the victims passed away after that fact. It's a dreamlike visual, a freaky last-ditch effort to save the crushed and dying victims.
Travis finally leaves the stage at 10:12, an hour after we heard those first screams for help.
Which aspect do you find the most disturbing? Let us know in the comments below.
An investigation and a flurry of lawsuits are now trying to figure out who is to blame for Astroworld ending in catastrophe.